I was already invisible by the time I stepped into the ballroom. The gala for Montgomery Crest Development was in full motion, champagne glasses clinking, donors laughing too loudly, my family's name floating comfortably between people who believed it still meant stability. I stood near the edge, holding a thin archival portfolio, waiting for a pause that never came. This story is an original creation by the writing team of the Revenge World channel, inspired by the hidden corners of family life, and told with the purpose of fostering emotional connection and spreading understanding. I waited anyway. When my father finally noticed me, I moved closer and said quietly, "Happy anniversary." I opened the portfolio just enough for him to see the charcoal study. I had worked on it for weeks. I didn't explain it. I never did, before he could speak. My brother Connor laughed. "Is this another art thing?" he said, loud enough for the man beside him to hear. "I thought we agreed hobbies weren't gifts." My mother smiled tightly. "Connor, not here." "This is exactly where," he replied. He looked at me. "You know investors are watching. Try not to confuse them. I'm not asking for anything," I said. Connor tilted his head. "That's the problem. You never do." My father cleared his throat. "Iris, maybe we can talk later." Later was always their way of saying never. I closed the portfolio. "It's fine." Connor smirked. "See low maintenance. You've always been good at that." A woman nearby glanced at me with polite curiosity, the kind reserved for assistants and plus ones. I realized then that no one in that room knew who I was supposed to be. I took the portfolio back from my father's hands. "Enjoy your night." As I turned to leave, Connor added, "Next time, just send a card. It's easier for everyone." I didn't respond. I walked past the donors, past the stage, past the name that no longer felt like mine. In the elevator, my phone buzzed with messages I didn't read. If this moment resonates with you, if you've ever been quietly dismissed in a room full of people, stay with me. Some stories don't begin with a scream. They begin with silence. When the doors closed, I finally let myself breathe. I wasn't angry. I was done donating myself to people who only valued what they could control. I didn't go home. I told the driver to take me to the Navy Yard, and he didn't ask why. People rarely do when you sound certain. The studio door was already unlocked by the time I arrived. Ryan was inside, sitting on the edge of the work table, scrolling through his phone. "You left early," he said. "I left on time." He looked at the portfolio in my hands. "Did you give it to him?" I tried. Ryan nodded once. "Then it's their loss." I set the portfolio down and leaned against the counter. My hands were steady, which surprised me. Usually after family events, they shook. They laughed. I said, not quietly. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Connor." "Who else?" He didn't insult my brother. He never did. Ryan had learned that defending me too aggressively only made the silence louder. Instead, he said, "The gallery called earlier." I looked up. "About the study, they finished the pre-auction review." He said, "They're estimating between $38,000 and $42,000. Conservative range." I exhaled. Not relief. Confirmation. "I'm not putting my name on it yet," I said. Ryan met my eyes. "You don't have to. The work stands either way." I opened my laptop and clicked into a folder labeled with my last name. Inside was a single document, a licensing draft I had rewritten 3 times, a gift I had convinced myself they deserved. Ryan watched the screen. "That's the branding agreement, isn't it?" 3 years, I said. Full usage. No fee. That would have covered their rebrand. It would have saved them, I said, and paused. And they didn't even know it. Ryan didn't rush me. He never filled silence that wasn't his. I dragged the file into the trash. "You're sure he asked?" "I'm certain." I emptied the folder. Then I blocked 3 numbers. My father. My mother. My brother. Ryan spoke softly. "That wasn't anger." "No," I said. That was clarity. I closed the laptop. For the first time all night, the room felt honest. Ryan stayed quiet while I stared at the empty trash folder on my screen. That agreement, he said carefully. You worked on it for months. I know. You rewrote it so they'd never notice what it was worth. I nodded. 3 years of exclusive branding rights, artwork, visual identity, campaign usage. I swallowed. Roughly $180,000 if they'd paid a firm instead of taking from me. Ryan crossed his arms. They would have called it generosity. They would have called it family. The word tasted wrong now. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. I kept telling myself that once they saw it, once they realized what I could do, it would change things. Ryan didn't interrupt. He let me finish. I thought this would make them proud, I said, or at least quiet. He finally spoke. You weren't offering them help. You were offering them access. That landed harder than I expected. They didn't reject the art, I said slowly. They rejected the idea that it had value, that I had value. Ryan stepped closer. And now they don't get to touch it. My phone buzzed on the desk. A blocked notification preview tried to push through. Connor's name. Just the name was enough to tighten my chest. Ryan glanced at the screen. You want me to say something? No. I said. I've said enough for a lifetime. I picked up the portfolio and slid it onto the shelf behind me. Out of reach. They wanted me small, I said. Manageable. Grateful. Ryan's voice was steady. And you're done performing that role. I nodded once. Some gifts are never meant to be opened. Deleting that file wasn't revenge. It was me taking back ownership of myself. Ryan poured coffee and set the mug in front of me without asking. You've been quiet. I'm remembering, I said. He waited. When Connor got his first job at the company, my parents threw a dinner. I said, not a celebration, a presentation. They talked about his title like it was destiny, Ryan said. And you, I was asked to take pictures. You have an eye, my mother said, like it was a compliment. Ryan shook his head once. They trained you early. They trained me to be harmless. I said. When Connor failed a quarter, they called it pressure. When I struggled, they called it proof. Ryan leaned against the counter. Proof of what that art was a phase, that I'd come crawling back grateful. I paused. They didn't push me out. They kept me just close enough to watch. Ryan spoke carefully. That's not neglect. That's control. I nodded. Connor needed me beneath him. My parents needed him above someone. My phone buzzed again. Blocked. Persistent. Ryan glanced at it. He won't stop. He never does when he thinks he's losing ground. I said, silence scares him, because silence means you're not asking permission. I smiled, thin and tired. Exactly. I walked to the shelf and touched the edge of a canvas still wrapped in paper. I didn't hide because I was ashamed. I said, I hid because they would have tried to own it. Ryan met my eyes. You built something without them. I had to. I said, they loved me most when I was failing. Another buzz. Then another. Ryan asked, what do you want to do now? I picked up the phone, turned it face down, and said, I want to stay small to them. He raised an eyebrow. So they never see what's coming. Ryan broke the silence. He posted it. I didn't ask what. I already knew. He turned the tablet toward me. Connor's story filled the screen. My charcoal study propped against a tray of half-eaten appetizers. The caption was casual, practiced. Something about creative rent payments and family charity. It was the tone that hurt most. Effortless, confident, like he'd done this before. He thinks it's harmless. Ryan said, he thinks I'm harmless. I replied. My phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't blocked. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize, followed by another, then another. Screenshots, links, comments multiplying faster than I could read. Ryan scrolled. People are asking where he got the piece. I stayed quiet. Ryan's thumb hovered. I can stop this. No, I said. Don't. He looked at me. You sure? I nodded. Do it clean. He typed one sentence and hit send. No flourish, no lecture. Just facts. Provenance confirmed. Original charcoal study. Represented work. Pre-auction estimate between $38,000 and $42,000. Handle with care. The comment landed like a match. Ryan exhaled. That's all I'm doing. The notifications surged. Connor's story disappeared, then reappeared, then vanished for good. My phone rang. Connor's name lit the screen. Ryan watched me. You don't have to answer. I do, I said, and put it on speaker. Connor didn't say hello. What did you do? I let the truth speak. I said, you embarrassed me. He snapped. You embarrassed the company. You embarrassed yourself. I replied. There was a pause. Then his voice dropped. You've been hiding assets. I didn't respond. He continued. Faster now. Family equity applies here. You don't get rich on our name and pretend you're independent. Ryan's jaw tightened. Connor finished. Cold and certain. We're going to fix this. Tonight. I ended the call. Ryan said quietly. That wasn't regret. No. I said. That was ownership. I set the phone down and didn't pick it up again. Connor called again less than 10 minutes later. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You don't get to play mysterious. His voice said, tight and controlled. If you've been sitting on money while we carried you, that's a problem. Ryan listened beside me, arms crossed. Connor texted next. You think investors won't ask where your money came from? Art is convenient that way. Ryan looked at me. That's not a threat. That's a test. I picked up the phone and typed once. Do not contact me again. Connor replied instantly. You don't get to shut this down. My phone rang. Different number. I answered. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Connor said. Sign a licensing transfer. We use the work. We move on. You already used it. I said. A pause. Short. Calculated. You don't have proof. He said. And even if you did, family doesn't do this to family. Family doesn't forge signatures. I replied. Ryan inhaled sharply. Connor's voice hardened. Careful. With what? With how this looks. People love stories about artists laundering money. About quiet daughters who suddenly get rich. There it was. Ryan spoke for the first time. You're threatening her reputation to steal her property. Connor ignored him. I'm offering a solution. You sign, we protect you. Otherwise, things get messy. I felt something settle in my chest. Not fear. Focus. You already made it messy. I said, you just didn't think I'd notice. He scoffed. You're emotional. No. I said, I'm finished. I ended the call and blocked the number. Ryan looked at me. That was the line. Yes, I said, and he crossed it on purpose. I opened my laptop and searched for a firm whose reputation was built on ending conversations like this. I wasn't responding as a daughter anymore. I was protecting an asset they had already tried to take. The senior partner introduced himself without pleasantries. Tell me what you know, not what you feel. I appreciated that. My name is Iris Montgomery, I said. I am the sole creator of several visual assets currently used by Montgomery Crest Development. There is no signed transfer of rights. He paused. And yet they are using them. Yes. Ryan leaned in as the lawyer shared his screen. We ran a preliminary search, the partner said. Your family's firm is circulating a bridge round deck. Target raise $7.5 million. My stomach tightened. What's in it? Your work, he replied. Your charcoal study? Cropped? Rebranded. Positioned as proprietary, Ryan muttered. They didn't even ask. There's more, the lawyer said. The appendix includes a licensing addendum granting 10 years of commercial rights. I felt my pulse steady. Signed by whom? By you, he said, and then corrected himself. Or rather, a version of your name lifted from a personal card. It's a forgery. Ryan exhaled slowly. That's fraud. The lawyer nodded. Wire fraud. Intellectual property theft. Misrepresentation to investors. I closed my eyes for a moment. Not to grieve. To organize. They assumed I wouldn't look. I said, they assumed family would keep you quiet. The lawyer replied. That's common, Ryan asked. What happens now? The investors will trigger due diligence, the lawyer said. They will ask for proof your family does not have. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject line compliance review initiated. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. They had built their future on my silence, and silence was no longer available. They arrived together, which told me everything. My father didn't sit. My mother did. Hands folded like she was waiting for a verdict she believed she could still influence. We need to fix this. My father said, no greeting, no apology. There's nothing to fix. I replied. My mother leaned forward. Iris, please. Your brother made a mistake. He made several. I said, and none of them involved confusion. My father's voice hardened. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand exactly what's at stake. I said, that's why I stopped lying. My mother tried again, softer. If you sign a clarification, we can tell the investors it was a misunderstanding. Keep it internal. You want me to validate a forgery. I said. My father snapped. You want to see us ruined. I didn't do this. I said. You did. Silence stretched. Then my mother said the words I'd heard my whole life. Let your brother handle this. You're too close to it. Ryan shifted beside me, but I didn't look at him. I already handled it. I said. The review is underway. My father's face drained of color. You sent it. I didn't send anything. I said. They asked. My mother whispered my name like it used to mean something. I stood. You taught me that responsibility matters. This is me listening. They left without another word. I didn't follow. Months later, no one said my family's name out loud. Ryan stood beside me at a small gallery opening on the Lower East Side. One of my early works returned, dismissed, forgotten, hung on the wall with a red mark beside it. The sale funded a grant for first-generation art students. No plaques? No dedications? You ready? Ryan asked. I nodded and stepped forward. My name is Iris. I said. I didn't add my last name. I didn't need to. This work exists because someone once told me it didn't belong. There was no applause, just listening. Afterward, Ryan squeezed my hand. You okay? I am. I said. I didn't win by proving them wrong. I won by leaving. If this story feels familiar, if you've ever been quiet so others could stay comfortable, stay with us. Share your thoughts. You're not alone here. I walked back to the canvas and lifted my brush. Silence, I had learned, was never weakness. It was my exit.